Get more on this from Mark Meirowitz. He's a professor at Maritime College in New York and specializes in U.S. foreign policy. Mark, why is the U.S. trying to make nice right now, and what's their motivation?
Well, having reviewed the discussions by video, reading the press conference that Pompeo gave after the meeting, and thinking about this a bit, I'm not so sure that the tone of it would be described as making nice. I think the relationship with Russia is very fraught right now, very difficult on a number of areas. And I think that what you see is a tone from Pompeo, particularly on the issue of Russian interference, that's I think the response of Lavrov was not necessarily very positive, but I think it's indispensable that the United States has to work with Russia. The question is on what terms that will take place. So I think that's kind of still needs to be, those blanks need to be filled in. There are areas of disagreement, as I think you pointed out.
So what are the prospects for advancing their alliance? And again, what might be some of those sticking points?
Right. So I think that the key points that were discussed today involve the New START treaty, the whole issue of nuclear relations between the two countries. This is very fundamental. But the sticking points really are Venezuela, where the Russians are supporting Maduro and the United States is supporting Guaido, and the issue of Iran, where the United States has announced, and I think you had something previously on the program, that it's going to possibly send troops. The United States has already sent, aircraft carrier and B-52 bombers. So that situation is becoming much more difficult and complex. The situation in Syria, obviously, is one where the U.S. and Russia interests intersect. And so those are really the principal issues. On Syria, they really didn't say very much. They said a lot on Venezuela. They said a lot on Iran. And the one area of very great significance and the sticking point was this whole question of whether Russia interfered with the American elections. Mr. Lavrov says, no way. Putin announced that this whole thing was fake. It was a hoax. But Pompeo was quite specific a number of times in insisting that the United States will not accept interference by Russia. So that I would call a major sticking point. You get one point of view from Pompeo, and then you get a different point of view from the way President Trump talks about it. That's also very interesting. So that there are major sticking points.
And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, Mark, because there have already been reports that Russia is attempting to interfere in the European elections. There are certainly concerns in the U.S. about the 2020 election, again, of Russian interference. I mean, we haven't really heard this kind of a tone from the Trump administration up until this point. And Pompeo also said while he was there that Russian officials have been given a list of ways to establish that they're no longer interfering in American elections. So I just want to get your take on all of that, and if the Russians can even be trusted to deliver on a promise. And I believe Lavrov responded saying that the U.S. was hypocritical for calling out Russia for interfering.
Well, I mean, Lavrov in his remarks was sort of bringing up some historical things that the United States did and how it interfered and all that, which is not productive. I think what's very interesting, what you just alluded to, and that relates to the fact that the tone from the Trump administration, from the president, is completely diametrically opposed to the tone from where Pompeo is, what he's saying. For President Trump, there's no collusion. The Mueller report has cleared everything. The whole thing is a hoax. And there's Pompeo saying, hey, you guys are really interfering in elections and you better stop. The question of how to come to the determination of it, I think it's very clear, at least from the evidence that's out there, that the Russians have been interfering in elections in the United States and also abroad. So I don't think that that's a doubt. The question is how the Russians are spinning it. And the way they're spinning it is basically to say that it's just not true and deniability. I don't know how far that gets you, but I think the message has been conveyed to Russia that they shouldn't do it. The question is, are they really not going to do it? And that, again, is the history of Russian-U.S. relations. And America can have a wish list, and then the Russians do what they want to do. And I think, but again, what's interesting about it is the different tone between the president and the Secretary of State. That is truly, I think, fascinating. And I think that, I don't know if it's deliberate or not, because on the one hand, domestically, we're tussling over the Mueller report to figure out if it's true or not, and it's redacted. And there's Pompeo going to Russia and saying, hey, it's true. This is what you do. You did it, and you have to stop. So it's confusing, honestly, very confusing. When you hear this, it's
right.
hard to
Mark Meirowitz, appreciate you being with us. Certainly a lot of different facets to that topic. Appreciate you breaking that down for us.